Hello YouTubers, I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Gear. Now, it's always enjoyable to get the latest, greatest, right, effects pedal. You know, whatever it is. And by the way, this should be a lesson learned. Just because it's brand new and the latest, greatest, right, does not mean that all of your older effects and things are now obsolete and worthless. You know, they might be price-wise, but use-wise, no. And you know, they're quite expensive. I mean, you know, you look at the Eventide H9, that's $700. Ouch. Right, but it's a great sounding pedal, of course. It makes older effects, right, a real bargain. So I was digging around my stuff and came across a rack mount effects unit, right? And rack mount right now is not very popular. You know, most people prefer pedals to put on their pedal board and so on. However, I would not discount rack mount effects either. And in this particular instance, I'm talking to you about an Alesis Quadraverb. Now, that's an old unit, you know. And basically it's a multi-effects unit, rack mount. And it has EQs, delays, reverb, chorus, modulation effects, and so on and so on. And it has MIDI. Not my cat MIDI, but MIDI, musical instrument digital interface. And you know, I wish all pedals had that. And the reason is, of course, you know, instead of getting just one sound, you get 128 possibilities, and you can store them and make your own presets and that kind of thing. Okay, so here it is. Here's the Alesis Quadraverb. And there's the LCD screen. Let's see if we can focus that in. There we go. So it says program 6 ping pong delay. Now I want to show you something pretty cool here. Look at this. When I actually turn the unit on, and you can read the screen, right? Oh, it went by so fast. Hold on. You'll see it says 1989, but it also says Alesis Quadraverb Plus. So actually this is a plus version. And what that means is that instead of the original chip, the Quadraverb chip, it's actually a Quadraverb Plus. And here you've got an output volume and an input volume, sets the gain, and the LEDs there to the left. There's a strip of little LED lights here that light up green, 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 and then if you clip it, it's red. And then you got the LCD screen there. And then here, page and value. And that lets you switch between presets without using MIDI. You know, you just hit the button and it switches to the next program. For example, here we have program 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on. It goes up to, I think, like 100, something like that. Alright, and then here, I know this is the bypass button here in the right hand corner. And then here, if you look at these The rest of these switches are more for when you plan to edit. I'm trying to get it to focus. See if I can do that. So here, I mean, you could call up delay, right? Pitch, EQ, modulation, so on and so on. So pretty cool little unit. We can look at the back of it. So here is the back of the unit here. And you've got power, of course. And I know it's kind of hard to see, especially with the... but basically you've got a foot switch called advance, which goes from preset to preset. The next one is bypass, so you can put a foot switch there. Then it has 2 MIDI jacks, a MIDI in, right, and a MIDI out, right, MIDI in, out, through, right there. Then you have output, stereo outputs, left and right, and stereo inputs, or if you want to use it in mono, you can just use the right input. And that's about it there. Okay, and that's the weird power cable there. Now, because it's an older unit, in fact, when you power it up, it gives you the date of 1989. Right? So, I mean, that's getting kind of old. However, not to be discounted. It's only 20-bit. Right? But think about it, you know, CD was 16-bit. So, I mean, sound quality-wise, it should sound really great. And, I mean, you can pick these things up these days for almost nothing, you know. Because, you know, they're not very popular and they're quite old. But it makes for a great multi-effects unit. Now, there is one caveat as well, and I'll show you what this is. Okay, for whatever reason, Alesis, in its infinite wisdom, put an external AC adapter, and with a proprietary kind of power adapter. Why they did this, I don't know. Maybe they wanted you to buy the power adapter from them. And here's the problem with it. It's freaking huge. Take a look at this. So there's the AC adapter, right? And you've got a power cable there. And now take a look at this. It looks like a MIDI cable. See that? But that actually plugs into the unit and provides it power to turn it on, you know. And this is huge. Now, I had the original power supply at one time, and it broke. This end here, you know, it's just a molded, almost like a MIDI cable, and it broke. So this is actually a replacement, but it looks identical, and it's just as huge, you know. And it's a 9-volt adapter, 3 amps. So that's pretty hefty there. I was quite curious to see how it sounds, you know, because I was positive you could get a good sound out of it, you know. As I recall, back in the day, I hadn't been playing all that long, but I remember the Alesis Quadriverb as an option, though I couldn't afford one back then at all. But nowadays, you can find them, as I said, very inexpensively, you know. And I think it compares to a lot of new multi-effects units, though, you know. Anyway, we'll find out if that's true or not. So I went ahead and hooked it up. We can take a listen to it. Okay, so I've got it hooked up here. First I'm going to bypass the unit. altogether. So this is just guitar into 2 amps. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it on. So here it is. This is just one of the program 6, just ping pong delay. Yeah, so it's ping ponging between the two. Keep in mind, this was before the time of like tap tempo delays. I don't know if you can hook up a foot switch to it or what have you. It does have MIDI though, so you may be able to control it that way. And the delay is quite good in this unit, I think. Alright, and I'm going to add a reverb just from a different pedal, just because I like the reverb sound to it. And that's the thing with this unit. I found that it's a lot better when it's working kind of added to another unit as opposed to just by itself. But it can do some really nice sounds, I think. I mean, this is kind of, yeah, right there. Bypass the unit, then all you get is the reverb and you get this kind of sound. Okay, or if I turn it on, getting this kind of sound. Now, let's try just another one. And these are just what's in here. Don't forget, it's programmable, so you can actually program different sounds in there. Which I've yet to do, you know. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface here. Here's a stereo flange, it says. Oh yeah, you can definitely hear that. Stereo chorus. Here we go. Let's hear that one. Keep in mind, I do have just a small reverb coming off a Eventide H9. I'll just leave it on all the time here. Alright. Okay, now here, I'm going to turn off the Eventide reverb and just let you hear some of the Alesis reverbs. Here's a gated reverb. Post EQ reverb. Wow. If I turn on the Eventide, let's see what that would sound like. So I've got both running here. I get rid of the Alesis and turning on both. Quite subtle, and that's what I was talking about. But it seems, and I mean, it just may be the way it's programmed, but it seems to be awfully subtle in a way, and works great in conjunction with something else, you know, some other pedal. Here's one pre-EQ reverb, okay? No, I don't even know what that is. tune. Some of these. Here's Leslie. Okay, here's a Leslie. Okay. All right, here's some different rooms. Here's a weird one, Concert Hall 1. Alright. Concert Hall 2. It's kind of bizarre because it is capable of some really good reverbs. It's just, you know, you really have to sit down and work with it. Here's one called Rich Chamber. King's Chamber. Yeah, see, that's a nice sound there, I think. Cool. Wow. Okay. Now if you take that off, you get this kind of... Turn it on. Looks nicer. Alright. Now here's a whole bunch of gate sounds. Gated reverbs kind of deal. There's mono chorus. They're probably just pretty basic. Chorus room. Pretty nice there. Yeah, so there you can do all kinds of. Chorus reverb. Yeah, I like that one. Chorus delay. All right. Stereo pitch. Now, I think that the stereo pitch isn't really a pitch shifter as much as it is kind of a detune type of deal. Alright, let's see, what's this? Lodge Leslie. I'm not sure what that is. And I mean, you could add, like here, I'll switch it over to a really huge reverb, and then this weird sound, the Leslie kind of sound, right? You get this kind of. Switch that back to just our standard reverb. Now this, I don't know if you need a pedal or what. It's a pitch bend Leslie. here's the delays, and they vary, you know. Like this one's a real fast delay. Or this kind of. Now we up to 250 milliseconds, that's a lot better. Goes up from there, 500 milliseconds, for example. Pretty good sound there, I think. What happens if we add another delay? Let's try it. Alright, now I've added a delay. A second delay off the Eventide, so let's hear that. Turn off the Elisa's, and I just get the delay off the Eventide, it turns into this. And now if I turn it on, playing the exact same thing, this is probably the maxed out delay. 1500 milliseconds. Holy smokes. Let's hear that. I turn off the Elises, I get this kind of sound. And now I'm going to turn the Elises on. And it's very similar, but it's more complex, I think. This is with the Elises on. Alright, now here's echo 2 to the left, so quite bizarre, kind of a panning effect. Echo plus flange. Reverse echo. Alright. Okay. Now what if we take off the reverb here, or take off the delay, sorry. Yeah, so now it's kind of a big that's kind of cool. And if we went back to that flange echo, wet rhythm guitar. No, this is grease guitar, or whatever that is. concert guitar. Man, if that's concert guitar, these must be the nosebleed seats. Okay, move on. Acoustic guitar. This should be interesting. Pretty nice, actually. I really kind of like that. That is really cool. Rhodes chorus. Alright. Pretty good, pretty good. Plate. Alright, let's try that one. So, here are my overall thoughts on the unit. One, it's a bargain, okay? Because you can pick these up really inexpensively. The AC adapter is kind of not all that great because it's so big, you know. But I guess that's okay, you know. You could put it in the back of a rack unit, you know, a rack case or what have you. Two, I was quite surprised at the MIDI capabilities and the fact that you can program presets, you know. And I'll tell you what, new metal or pedal manufacturers sure could learn something from Alesis in that sense, you know, because it really is full-featured MIDI control. Okay, thirdly, the sound. Okay, here's what I found. Some of the sounds are kind of junky, not that great, you know. But there are some sounds that are really nice, and I mean, absolutely compare, if not better, than some new pedals that I've tried, you know. In particular, I think the delays in that unit are exceptional. I mean, really good, you know. Now, there's some caveats with that. And I'll have to check and see if it has tap tempo or not, you know. But it's actually quite a long delay, you know, not the longest I've ever heard, but pretty long, you know. I mean, I know there's a preset that was like 1500 milliseconds. Pretty good. Overall, if you're on a budget, of course, it'd be a pretty good unit to have if you had an amp, you know, and ran it into an effects loop or that kind of thing. In this case, I just ran it directly in front of the amp. It was pretty good, you know, And keep in mind, I'm only going through the presets there. You know, I haven't delved into any kind of programming for it. You know, I should though. It'd be very interesting to see, because you could probably come up with some really neat sounds, actually. Okay, now here's something I didn't expect, and this is quite interesting. And that is, I found that when I added a reverb, right, pedal to it, you know, in other words, ran the Alesis into a reverb, then I would get some really interesting sounds. And I found the Alesis to be quite subtle, really. But it sweetens the sound. You know, it just adds to it just a little bit. You know, which makes it really pretty cool. And I tell you what, when you bypass it, you kind of miss what it does, you know. Like when I had the reverb thing and I added the delay from the Alesis, you got a really nice sound, you know. And of course, when I bypassed the Alesis and just had the reverb, you know, it was kind of plain sounding. And here's the other thing. It's not noisy, and this is a big issue. A lot of the older units can get very noisy as far as hiss and those kinds of things, and that's not the case here. I mean, it is perfectly usable, even for recording or, you know, studio use and things. So anyway, it's something to think about. You know, if you run across one and it's inexpensive, I'd highly recommend it, quite frankly, especially for the price these days, you know. Now, you know, the music gear industry, you know, would have you believe, you know, that if you don't have the latest, greatest, you know, just released pedal, you know, then that everything else is crap, basically. And that's just not the case at all. In fact, one of the neat features I found on it is this swell function is really pretty neat on it, you know. But I'd say, yeah, for me anyway, the delays were really something else. Really good, you know. I think the weakest one was probably they kind of have like a pitch shifter, harmonizer type deal. That's pretty sad. You know. But I guess that's to be expected. You know. But definitely the delay is definitely a strength. You know. And I added it to my existing delay and definitely heard a big difference, and still was able to keep it in time, you know. So very interesting and a lot of fun to do, you know. And if you were diligent and studied the manual, right, and really spent some time with it, I think you could come up with some really great sounding, usable presets of your own, you know, which will be really interesting as well, you know. And there's something kind of satisfying about that as well, you know, that you're combining an older unit, you know, with maybe, you know, new pedals on your pedal board or what have you. And to think that it's still relevant after all these years is quite something, you know. Now, how long will they last? I don't know, but it's been, you know, a long time. You know, we're talking over 20 years. I mean, that's pretty decent, I think. You know. especially compared to some of the stuff that comes out today. You know, that lasts a year or two and then breaks. Weak. So, yeah, it's kind of strange. I don't know if, you know, rack effects will come back or not. But what was always nice about rack effects is that you had a really nice display. You know, now in this case, the display, I should mention that, is this orange LCD display. And it's fine, it's usable. I mean, you can read it pretty well. You know, it's not the greatest looking or anything. And in fact, it reminds me of a, what was it? It was a interface, a Motu, old interface. And the LCD display finally died on it and made it kind of unusable. And it turns out you could buy a new LED, right? New technology LED display for it. You know, and it's the kind of same thing here, I think. I think eventually, and I don't know when that'll be, it could be years from now, the display will eventually go out, you know, and that'll be the end of the unit, pretty much. You know, or at least as far as programming and things, you know. But so far, no trouble at all with it, so. And it's lasted for years and years, you know. Alright, well, I'm glad I got to show you that, you know. Pretty interesting, you know, pretty interesting, you know. Now, I found that a lot of the presets had flanger in it. Not my favorite effect, but it's okay, you know. You really have to play with it. But I did find some of the presets were exceptional, you know, especially the ones with delays again. Anyway, something very interesting, and I think I'm going to record an album where I basically incorporate this Alesis quad-reverb, you know, because it really adds to existing presets I already have, you know, coming off my other pedals. It just kind of adds to it, and not overwhelmingly, you know. It's kind of subtle. But I tell you what, when it's not there, and you've heard it when it was there, you know, you miss it. So I think it's worthwhile. All right, very good. So I'll see you next time. Okay.